My dad grew up in a small town in Vermont. His childhood home was an old hospital that had been renovated into a house. He has told me quite a few stories of unexplainable things that happened there. This one, however, is probably the most bone-chilling thing that has ever happened there. My dad's sisters would sometimes hold seances with their friends from school, and one time in particular, they decided to skip school and do one in a closet upstairs while everyone else was gone. Two of his sisters and a girl from school piled into the closet and shut the door. During the seance, my Aunt Anne asked, "If there's anyone here, please make yourself known." Immediately, my other Aunt Susan felt a hand on her back. She jumped to the side a little bit and saw the hand coming out of a box on the floor. She said it looked dead gray and rotting. The girls freaked out and ran out of the closet. Doors and cabinets were slamming in the house, and they were so scared they just ran out of the house and left it empty for hours. My dad came home from school and saw the front door open, so he figured someone was home and was calling for Anne and Susan, asking why they had left the door wide open. With no answers, he thought maybe they were messing with him. He was the youngest and often his sisters would pick on him. He walked around the house yelling for them, saying it's not funny and he didn't want to play along with their stupid games. When he got upstairs, he heard a bedroom door slam. He went to the door and tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. He banged on the door. "And this isn't funny. Come on, just open the door." No answer. He tried to turn the knob and pull as hard as he could, but it still wouldn't budge. He put his leg on the wall as leverage and pulled back and finally got the door open, just a crack. He peeked through the crack and saw nothing. There was nothing there. Nobody holding the door. Nobody messing with him. Then the door was ripped away from him, shutting itself again, and he fell onto the ground. He was shocked. He got up and tried to open the door once again, and it opened with no resistance this time. He inspected the room and nobody was there. Super creeped out, he went downstairs and found his sisters coming back home. He asked them what kind of game they were playing with him, and they looked scared. They told him that they haven't been home for hours because of what they had seen that morning, and they were not messing with him. The house actually mysteriously burned down years after this, when they were all adults, and I'm pretty sure there was also a small graveyard close by where the old hospital used to bury bodies. His mom, who has passed away now, two of his sisters, and he has had many experiences in that house. However, most of them were not as aggressive as this one. I think that the seance really woke something up that day. I have created a second Reddit account to tell you this story. I do not want the ghost story searchable to my account because most media is now traceable to your username. I can assure you, your career is not enhanced by ghost stories. I have been empathetic my entire life. When I was a toddler, I would see shadow people who came out of the wall. I called them gorillas, but the gorillas never really did anything bad other than scare me. Throughout my life, I have continued to have many experiences, and this is the most recent. I was riding my motorcycle on an abandoned road. The road led into a state-owned conservation area. The area was thick, forest and brush, a very steep hill on one side and a river on the other side, both close by the road's surface. I had been here many years before because it was teenage drinking and smoking party spot with a large cave. The cave had been explosively sealed by the conservation department after a series of violent crimes had occurred there. I have no idea why I wanted to revisit my teenage party spot. I stopped and viewed the expansive, beautiful scenery. I looked up the steep hill, and 100 yards up in the brush, I saw what looked like a floating white plastic bag, or perhaps wispy cotton, floating down through the trees. I watched as it came through the trees slowly, at walking speed. It floated down directly at me. As it got very close, it appeared more like smoke. The smoke moved from eye level to ground level, floated over the top of my shoes, floated slowly up my body, back up to eye level, 6 inches from my face, and then just disappeared. I looked all around me, and it was gone, completely gone. I went home, and nothing happened for a few weeks. Then the knocking started. Knocking generally was in the TV room, and my wife and I chalked it up to a somewhat frantic settling of the house. The knocking went on and on. Finally, I had enough and started yelling at it to stop it, and it mostly did. I was concerned that the smoke had followed me home. I Google searched the area of the weird smoke and found this article, which is the same location and time frame as I was there. This knocking continued, but slowed considerably. I suspect it slowed because the ghost now knew it had contacted me, and I was aware it was there. The knocking generally followed me from the TV room to a second bedroom I often fell asleep in. I slept in this second bedroom because I like to go to sleep with the streaming computer on, and my wife doesn't like the TV or computer on when she sleeps. In this second room, the low-level activity continued for 2 years. Then it went to a higher level. I heard someone walking into the bedroom, and I would speak to it, convinced it was my wife, but no one was there. One morning, I awoke contemplating my coming day when it spoke directly into my ear. I repeated the vocal sounds over and over and came to the conclusion it was just nonsense gibberish. When it spoke to me, I wasn't anyway scared. This did not feel bad. It was very creepy, but I knew it wasn't evil. A few weeks later, I had fallen asleep and felt a tremendous pain in my head. It felt like someone stuck a sword through my head, except the pain started in a small area and expanded like an explosion through my head. It lasted only an instant. I shook it off, started to go back to sleep. Then the footstep sounds and a small toy fell off a dresser. Jesus, now I was getting wide awake. I opened the laptop and restarted the show I had fallen asleep to. In the glow of the computer screen, the spirit started to manifest and become visible. Fuck, I didn't sign up for that. I immediately left the room, went to my other bedroom. It didn't follow. I racked my brain. What could it possibly want? So I prayed. Then it came to me. The pain in my head was what he felt when he shot himself. This ghost needed something from me. It wasn't evil, it just needed something. I suspected I now knew. I went to the bedroom. I told him I was sorry how it ended. I prayed to the Lord, Jesus, and Saint Michael. I told him he was forgiven by the Lord and by me. He should forgive himself now. I told him that his family awaited him and loved him even if he didn't think so. I personally felt a great relief. That was 2 weeks ago. There have been no knocks since, and this story is absolutely true. My name is Mike. Before I tell my story, I'd like to let you guys know that I am not a man of religion. From my point of view, every video, photograph, or audio recording has a logical explanation. The only reason I keep my interest in the paranormal is because of the strange things I have experienced in my childhood. Things that have recently seeped its way back into my life. It's hard to believe in coincidence, but it's even harder to believe in anything else. John Green. I started out the first 3 years of my life homeless. It was just me, my brother, and my mom. My parents split up right after I was born, and neither of them could afford a house by themselves. My dad lived in his car, and my mom lived at various places for a while. Cheap holiday resorts that would help families in need, relatives, and shelters would be our go-to. My mom always made sure that my brother and I never realized the situation we were in. "We are on holiday," she would tell us. In the Netherlands, it wasn't too weird that homeless families would stay in places like center parks outside of the holiday season. I only found out about the whole thing when she opened up about it many years later. After 3 years, my mom was assigned a flat in Rotterdam. It wasn't much, but we called it home. My dad had a place for himself, as well as we started spending some time with him again. My mom hated the idea, but he was still our dad. We would see him on the weekends, and we were living with our moms for the rest of the time. From that point on, it was pretty normal life. Birthdays, game nights, playdates with other kids. Life was good. After a while, my mom started having trouble sleeping. She would sit on the couch in the middle of the night, staring into blank space. One night, I got out of bed to get some water, and she was standing in the middle of the hallway. Motionless, she looked at my direction. It was the first time I was overcome with fear because of her behavior. She would sometimes break down and think that people would come and take everything away again. I think the memories of her own childhood and years of being homeless with 2 kids finally got the better of her. It scared me at first, but eventually it was a normal routine. I would hear voices coming from the living room and a few sobs every now and then. It was heartbreaking. Fast forward 3 years, I was sleeping and something woke me up. I expected to hear my mom from the living room, but it was quiet. I tried to focus on the sounds I heard, and all of a sudden, a white shade shot from the bed and grabbed my throat. It was only for a moment, but it was enough to send me crying out of my room. Can you blame me? I'm a grown man now, but I think my reaction would be quite similar if it would happen to me tonight. My mom ran from her bedroom and held me in her arms. I cried that something was trying to hurt me. Being the good mother that she is, she told me that it was just a bad dream and that I could sleep in her bed that night so I could feel safe. I was scared shitless, but tired enough to fall asleep. The next day, my brother came into my mom's room and saw me laying there. He asked me, "Did it hurt you too?" We were really young, but I remember that sentence as if it was yesterday. In the following years, we would experience similar things. The idea that someone would hide in a corner, books would fall from the bookshelves, my mom being weird at night. It became normal for me, but my brother couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to live with my dad because he no longer felt safe at home. This destroyed my mother. Her nightly cries made a comeback, but this time she wasn't in some trance. It was a hard time, but for some reason, the activity seems to calm down. No longer did I feel watched at night. I can only describe the feeling as calm. Time went by, and I would spend more time at my dad's place. I made some friends there, and I had a stepbrother I got along with quite well. It wasn't long until I started to notice weird things happening. Lights would go out at night, TV would shut off and turn back on again a few minutes later. I told my brother about it because I thought he was messing with me. He said that whatever was haunting us in our old house followed him there. I laughed because I didn't believe in ghosts anymore. I was older now, and I started rationalizing a lot of things that happened in the past. My brother, on the other hand, didn't laugh with me. He told me that friends that stayed the night would go back home at night because they were scared. Some told my brother that they saw a face just a few inches from their own when they opened their eyes. Some would see a figure standing in the doorway. According to my brother, things got a lot worse when he left home. I asked his friends, and unfortunately, they confirmed it. I could not help but feel a little paranoid after that. It seemed that everywhere my brother would go, he would take this weird stuff with him. 8 years later, he finally got a serious relationship after he bought his first apartment. It could be unrelated, but I think he didn't want to live alone. It was the first time he didn't have anyone near, and given what he went through his whole life, I couldn't blame him. They soon had children and bought a nice family house together. As far as I know, he didn't experience any strange activity during the last 6 years. Unfortunately, bad news would strike him again, but this time it wouldn't be considered paranormal. In 2019, he was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. They caught it early, so he would have a piece of his colon removed. The entire second half of 2019 would be filled with fear, but we were hopeful. He had his surgery in February of 2020, and he was no longer in any real danger. I wanted to look him up, but life had another trick up its sleeve. A worldwide pandemic. I couldn't see him for months out of fear he would catch COVID-19. After the year he had, I wasn't taking any chances. Then came last week. I finally got to see my brother 5 months after his surgery. I wanted to keep the conversations light, but our good friend Johnny Walker had other plans. I asked him what it was like to be in the situation he was in. He told me he thought about death a lot. The chances of him dying were extremely small, but you never know if the disease had spread or not. He wondered if there really was an afterlife. What would happen to him when he died? We then started talking about all the things that happened in the past and came up with a lot of reasonable theories. How the white shades was something I hallucinated and my fear took my breath. How friends possibly heard stories and became paranoid when they were having a sleepover. It felt good to laugh about it. We eventually said our goodbyes and I got in the car. I saw his arm waving in between the curtains while I drove off. This was funny to me because we always make fun of my dad and stepmother when they stand in front of their house waving us goodbye like the end of some cheesy Christmas special. I texted him about it when I got home. Did you really just wave me goodbye? You are starting to look like that. 5 minutes after my text, I got a call from my brother. He sounded a bit frightened over the phone when he asked what I meant. When he closed the door that night, his kid started crying. He went upstairs to calm him down right after I left. His voice sounded scared and desperate when he told me that he never waved me goodbye. The reasonable side of me tells me that it was a trick of the light, but deep down inside me, I'm having a different feeling. Was everything that we experienced as kids real? Did something really haunt my little brother wherever he went? Was this thing mocking me by waving me goodbye? I really wanted to get this off my chest. I just hope that this is nothing more than a series of coincidences. I was a bit hesitant to write my story here, but this gives me some comfort in a weird way. If anyone have or had the same experience with this, please let me know. I feel like I'm being watched again.